Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dana. Hi, everyone,
Welcome to Hypnosis.
and beyond.
Today we have Fiona Bleetman, a human design business specialist. Hi, Fiona. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
We would love if you would share with us some of your highlights that led you to being a guest today on Hypnosis and Beyond.
Yeah, I love connecting with people first of all, in the health and wellness world, but particularly in like the natural healing world. I actually, before I got into the work I do today, which I'll talk about in a bit, I did come from a health coaching background as well. So anything health related, anything natural, supportive, healing, I'm all about it. And it's such an honor and pleasure to be, networking with people in this area. So yeah, thank you for having me here.
Wonderful. Well, let's hear some stories of tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into.
Yeah, so I'm a human design business specialist, and a lot of your listeners probably wouldn't have heard of human design before because it's not that well known. So, just to explain what human design is a self knowledge system based on ancient wisdoms such as the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, the I Ching. It's also based on astrology and quantum physics. And what the human design system shows us is that we all have a purpose here in this planet. And we're perfectly designed to achieve our purpose. We have everything we need to do that inside of us, the innate talents and skills and abilities, and the way that our energy is flowing inside, and the way that we're built, the way that our energetic body is built on purpose, the way it is to help us achieve our purpose here. So that's what human design is about. Um, how I got into it. Um, so my career background, I was a data analyst. And during COVID time, I had this big desire to get into health and wellness. And I was doing all these detoxes. And, it was during COVID time, I was doing all these detoxes. I was making my own soaps and things and diets and all the things. And I thought, okay, right, I want to move into this sector. So I did a health coaching qualification. And once I qualified with that, I had this oh crap moment where I realized that in order to start the practice and start making an impact and serving people, I had to become visible. And that was the scariest thing in the world to me. I had so much fear and anxiety around being judged online, showing, and I was, speaking about like natural health as well, like online during these times. Yeah, it was really scary for me. And also, I was petrified of speaking in front of people. I've always had that from a very young age, from primary school. If the teacher even looked my way, my heart would be out of my chest, my vision would go narrow, and sweaty palms. So I always had that. And then, going into university, I remember having to do like a presentation for the tutor group. And I would literally become dissociated from my body, not being able to feel my body, and then stumbling back to my seat afterwards. Um, so yeah, I've always struggled with speaking up in front of people. And thankfully, in my data analyst job, I didn't really have to be, I could hide behind my Excel spreadsheets. So it came time to show my face and to speak up in front of people and to share my truth and my wisdom. Um, and that is the point that I found human design. And I I discovered, well, I worked through the fears and the blocks. I had a coach, and we worked through the fears and things that had happened in the past that I worked through. But I also discovered how I'm designed to communicate and show up and operate and run things, and that just changed my whole entire life. And I took this big leap of faith, and I moved to Bali. Um, when was that? I think that was 2023. I moved to Bali with the intention of being a health coach, with the knowledge and wisdom of human design inside of it, so that I could really help people so specifically, right? And, when I'm creating health plans and things like that, to create it so in alignment with them so that they would more likely to do it and comply, and, keep it sustainable. So I got to Bali, and I I didn't really have too many clients at the time. I was, quite fresh, and I also was going through like a breakup. So there was a lot going on, and I wasn't very stable physically. And anyway, I went out for dinner with a group of girls that I just met. This was after a few weeks. I would say before this, I flew out on Christmas Day alone. I spent New Year's Eve alone. My birthday's in January. I spent it alone. I didn't know anyone. I was going through a break. It was a really hard time for me. Anyway, a few weeks later, I met some girls. I went out for dinner, and they started speaking about astrology. And I naturally just start talking about human design, because I find it even more, I don't know, like practical and tangible and implementable. So I started talking about it, and I left that dinner with people booking in for readings, which I wasn't actually offering at that point in time, but people asking for readings. So I was like, okay, sure. And from that, I started to get messages. My friend had a reading with you. I want one. And then I started to get asked to do talks on retreats. There's a lot of retreats in Bali, and I had to, overcome my fear of public speaking, which I was already like kind of like on the way of doing. But yeah, I showed up and I did this talk on a retreat, and from that retreat, I got clients. And then at that point, I was like, okay, this is the direction I'm supposed to be going in. Leave the health coaching behind. It's not really going anywhere, and this is like coming to me, and all the invitations are there. So yeah, I started to do public speaking, and that's how I was getting my clients. For the first year, I was running just events and talks and public speaking. And then I niched down into working with business owners, with coaches, practitioners, anyone that's self-employed, helping them start and run and grow their business in alignment with their true self. And that's where I am today.
Fascinating. So when you say your true self, can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so many people, I mean, a lot of us have been subject to so much conditioning. We don't even know what our real goals are. If you ask people, like, what's your goal? What's your business goal? A lot of people will say hit six figures. Where did that even come from? Like, is that really what your soul is calling for, six figures, or is there something more? So there's that side of things, because a lot of us are just repeating what we're hearing, what's trending, and even, let's say, marketing methods. Something might be working really well for someone you know or someone you follow, but that might not necessarily be the best way for you to show up and communicate and promote yourself. Some people, it's live, talking live and having an audience. Some people, it's written. Some people, it's through their design and images and all the aesthetics. We're all and also the way that we communicate. I'm designed, in my human design, to speak intuitively in flow through storytelling. And that's not how I was showing up. When I first started the health coaching business, I was trying to be very factual and structural and concise. And that can be very good for some people that have that built inside of them, and that, it shines through when they're speaking. But for me, I had to kind of unlearn that way of communicating, and really step into this more scary way of speaking. For me, it's more scary because you're more subject, I guess, to judgment, and where'd you get that from, and who are you to say that? But yeah, just understanding yourself and how to utilize your natural gift.
I'm curious, how does human design give somebody a reading? You said people come to you for readings. What is that based
Okay.
on, and how does that work?
Yeah. Okay. So, um, there's a human design calculator. It's similar-ish to a birth chart, like in astrology. So you need your date of birth, your time of birth, and location of birth. I can share a calculator that your listeners can use if they're curious to find out what their human design is. But you put in that information, and it generates a graph, but it's like a body graph. So you've got the chakras, but they're called energy centers in human design. So you've got the crown, the ajna, the throat. You've got the G center, which is like here, ego/heart center, sacral, spleen, solar plexus, and roots. So they're the like energy centers. And then inside those energy centers, they're called gates, and they're your talents. So if it's colored in, that means that you have that talent. You've been born with that talent on purpose to help you achieve your thing. With the gates as well, the talents, you can be showing up in the higher expression of a talent, or you could be showing up in like a lower expression. And if you are showing up in a lower expression, usually that's due to some sort of conditioning or bad experience that you've had in the past, and you kind of shut yourself off from using it. So the first thing I do if I'm doing a reading, for example, is I take the data analyst in me. I do a bit of a gap analysis, and I see through talking with them, how are you currently showing up? What are you currently doing? What are things looking like for you right now? And then in their chart, I can see how it could be in its highest potential. And any gaps, we note them and I kind of delve into them. Why are you not showing up in your highest potential? Why is this off balance? When did that start? And then we work through that. So that's what the analysis is for. And then a lot of the time people will then move on to coaching, because we've kind of pulled out all the bits where we need work. And none of us are perfect. All of us, need to do work. And then, I can provide that coaching as well to help people step into their highest power.
Interesting. So then the coaching, is that also like I realize you're using the data from the human design chart, but is your coaching style, is that part of the human design, or is that your own approach, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I would say I feel like I'm deliver it differently than most people, and it's probably to do with my design and astrology. I'm very Capricorn, so Capricorns are very like structured and grounded. So I'm very structured and grounded, and it's very like practical. And I'm also using intuition and guidance. So it's this combination of like business strategy with intuitive guidance, which isn't a combination I've seen really before. So it probably is to do with my design being heavily Capricorn, and then having these talents and abilities in my human design. For example, sensing people's needs is one of my talents. So it kind of just a mishmash.
Very nice. And you said you have a niche with business.
Yeah. Um, I would call them solopreneurs. So anyone that's basically self-employed. A lot of my clients are from either the health and wellness world, life coaching world, self-development world. But I have also worked with people in film, people in theatre, what else? People in marketing. Um, so I kind of have a niche, but I work with men and women. I work with all ages from the age of, I'd say, 20s to 60s. It seems to be the range. Um, Anyone that's basically working for themselves. And I think my big desire and passion is helping people live their purpose and getting paid for what they love to do, making sure that they can make that into a living and live this freedom-based lifestyle. I want it to spill over, not just their work, but how does this shape your life? Have you got more time with your family now? Do you have more time to work on yourself, to travel, things like that? So I think it's more than just, creating, getting this many clients or generating this much income. It's really, are you doing what your soul came here to do? Are you deeply satisfied every day? Do you wake up so excited to see your clients? And have you created this lifestyle where you can do all the things that you wish to do?
So how is this different than, say, like an Enneagram or like personality types that you would go and get for like a job application or something?
That's a good question.
Could you?
So this never changes. It's based on your birth, right? So I think with Enneagrams and things like that, it's more personality based, which can change. So let's say you get a promotion, you'll probably start acting, behaving differently, having different priorities. Whereas human design does not change. The influences to the chart can change, but your design doesn't change, your strategy wouldn't change, your talents wouldn't change. And I'd say it's more reliable, more practical, and more implementable. It really gives you so much tangible guidance. For example, when I spoke about the communication, it told me, my chart told me, speak intuitively and flow through storytelling. It's so specific, and it doesn't mean it's easy to start and just switch up the way that you're doing things. It takes time, but I think the information, it's so tangible. I think that's the big difference.
And who is behind this? Who's the creator?
Yeah, his name is Ra Uruhu. And he was in Ibiza. But yeah, he had a download basically of all this information, and he was channeling for about I think 7 or 8 days. He was just channeling all the information and just writing it all out. And what's really interesting is that even though he channeled it all, it's still linked to ancient wisdom such as the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life and the I Ching, all these systems, and it's all the way that he downloaded all that information is incredible.
I noticed that there's 6 categories that you could fall in. Like how many?
There's 5. Would you like
5.
me to
Okay.
go through them?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So we have the generators. I'm a generator myself. We're the builders, the doers, the creators. We're here to build things basically, and we get energized by doing things that light us up. So that could be anything, and that is really important in our line of work, of course, because that's where we spend most of our time. And if our work is draining us, that's a really big indication that something needs to change. And we as generators aren't just generating energy for ourselves, we're generating energy, like life force energy, for everyone around us. So it's so important for us to say no to the things that we want to say no to. We struggle a lot with people pleasing and like saying yes to things that we don't really want to do, to be a good friend, to be a good boss, and really, if we're saying yes when we mean no, we're not just hurting ourselves, we're going to drain the others as well. So that's the generators. It's so important to protect that. Then we have the manifestors. The manifestors are, I would say, the train drivers, I call them. They're the leaders, the movement creators. They drive things forward. If you imagine the rest of the population are on the platform, standing on the platform, the manifestor is driving that train from London to Paris. And the rest of us either decide if we're going to get on that train or not. But that manifestor is going in that direction. That's their energy. And they can be quite vulnerable to also people pleasing because they experience more rejection than the rest of us. They're a bit more marmitey. People either want to go on that journey with them or they don't. The thing is, when they do experience rejection, it's not a bad thing. It's the universe clearing out people that aren't aligned for you. It's going to save you so much time, hassle, and money and energy, knowing now that they're not the right fit, than having 3-4 business calls to get to the last one to know that they're, things like that. So this filtering system is a good thing. It just in the moment can feel hard for the manifestors. So it's just, I think my message to the manifestors is just be unapologetically on your journey and just go for it. And if they're with you, great. If they're not, you don't need to explain yourself. You just go for it. So then we have the manifesting generators, which is a hybrid of the first 2 I just spoke about. And these are multi-passionate beings. They have multiple skills, hobbies, abilities. They find it very hard to just stick to one thing because they're not actually supposed to stick to one thing. They're probably working on 5 different projects, and they can be very hard on themselves because they struggle to finish projects or finish things that they start. But again, they're not designed that way on purpose. So it's okay. The conditioning can make us feel like I started this, I must finish. Or what are they going to think of me if I start this other course and I didn't finish that course yet? And my friend wrote her book in a year and she's a generator. And in the meantime, I've started a YouTube channel and Instagram and a TikTok and a this and a that. And I haven't finished my book yet, but I started all these different, that's that energy of just like doing so many things. And maybe they finish their book a few years later and have the bestseller because they've got all this other skill and experience and wisdom coming into it. So the big thing with manifesting generators is follow the excitement. If you're being pulled to something new and shiny and exciting, that is where you're supposed to be going. Not, I started this course, so I have to finish this before I move on to the next one. Removing the logic from it and following the excitement. They're the jack of all trades. So they need to embrace that, and that's where their power lies. And especially in business as well, we're told a lot of the time, what's your niche? What's your thing? Find your thing. For them, that's limiting because they're supposed to have lots of all the different skills and things that they're interested in, and they can put it under an umbrella. So they could be, let's say the umbrella could be health coach, and then breath work and yoga and nutrition and all the different things coming under one. But if they just limit themselves to a breath coach or, whatever, it can be limiting. Then we have projectors. Projectors are the wise guides. The analogy I give for projectors is, imagine we're all in a forest, hunting, gathering, looking for food, looking for safety. The projectors are a little bird on a tree branch, and they can see the quickest, most efficient way to the food, to the safety. They have this higher perspective that the rest of us don't always have on the ground, and we're not always ready to hear what they have to say. So there can be some friction if projectors are imposing their insights on us when we're not ready. So it's really important for them to make sure that they're invited to share their insights. There's a big thing around communication for them. They really need to make sure it's invited. Because yes, they can see that usually there is a better way, and they can see that. But if we're not ready to hear it, it's just going to cause tension. They have a bit less energy than the generators and the manifesting generators. Same with, so the manifestors and the projectors have slightly less energy because they don't have their sacral defined, which is where the life force energy is generating from. So they're actually designed to work 3 to 4 hours a day in terms of delivering. And the rest of the time, they could be planning, organizing, honing in on their skill. But in terms of actively delivering, if you are like a hypnotherapist, you don't want to be seeing clients back to back all day as a projector. They would make an amazing hypnotherapist because they have this higher perspective. They can see deeply into people, into systems. It's very penetrating. But yeah, they need more space to step back and relax and rejuvenate. And it's okay. And, if you're working in an office, for example, it's not always set up in the best way for a projector. And they're more susceptible to burnout, especially if they're working in this traditional world and they're comparing themselves to everyone else. And even if they do have their own business and they're looking at their other friends who are like working crazy hours and they're really getting so much done, doesn't mean that's how they should do it. For a generator, if it's lighting them up and they're getting charged by it, that's great, cool, go for it. For a projector, they're not getting charged up by doing the thing. So it's a bit different, and they just need to honor their energy levels and know that even if they're delivering for less hours, it's just as potent as a full day generator, basically. So that's important for the projectors. And then the very last one is reflectors. Now, reflectors are really rare. They only make up 1% of the population. I've only met a handful myself. I've had only one reflector client. I think once. But their energy body is completely undefined, which means completely energetically open to being influenced. So very, very sensitive. And their role is basically to reflect back to the group or to society how we're doing. They're a mirror of us. So their attitudes, their feelings, what's coming out of them is literally a mirror of the group. So when they're in really healthy and nourishing environments, that's exactly how they're going to feel, and that's what they're going to project out. When they're in toxic, heavy environments, that is what they're going to be mirroring back, basically. They can be quite triggering for people because, again, they're our mirror. But yeah, that's their main role, to reflect back to us how we're doing. Yeah.
Interesting to hear all of those descriptions and those specific, suggestions or observations based on what their talents are and stuff. It's very interesting to hear all of them. So then is it always obvious what a person, what category, which type they are? Is it because it's based on the birth information, or
So are you saying, can I notice without looking at their charts?
yeah, I think I'm asking
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
also I think I'm asking, can people be more than one of those, or
Okay. So yes, a lot of the time I can tell, especially with manifesting generators. And also projectors. Yes. Yeah, I can tell most of the time. Can you be more than one? You can't be more than one, but you can have channels within side of the chart that is a flavor of another type. So I could be a generator with a projector channel. So I could really resonate with some of the projector stuff in that section of me. So when we're talking about the types here, this is, the 5 types we just went through. This is the outermost layer. This is the umbrella, the outer skin of the onion. And then, you peel back a layer, and it gets a lot more specific. And, no generator's the same. Obviously, no projector's the same. We've all got different things going on inside of us as well.
Yeah, it just seems like when you're going over those various descriptions also, and, I'm thinking, "Oh, maybe I'm a little bit of that and a little bit of that," but at the same time, it's, like, also self-acceptance because if you do have limitations, how can you turn that into a gain or a positive? So,
Yeah.
that's what I was getting from it. It's like, we can't all be the same person, we can't all operate the same way, so, do people feel relieved almost when they're getting this?
Yes, I can't tell you how many
Feedback.
people have cried in our sessions
Wow.
just with relief. Oh, I'm like this. I'm supposed to be like, I can be like this. This is okay for me to, now I can actually like embrace this instead of trying to be like a generator and trying to show up. And what's wrong with me? Am I lazy? Am I iron deficient? It's like, oh no, like I'm just not using my energy in the way that it wants to be used. And can make that shift to my lifestyle. And wow, like I'm more productive, I'm more efficient, I feel good. And when you're living more aligned with your design, your life becomes more aligned and more opportunities come your way. And I think, how I spoke about my journey at the beginning of how I fell into human design, it's like I was really living my design. And then it just, all these opportunities just, started happening and all these synchronicities. And that's what happens when you're really living and embodying it. And when I was in Bali as well, like, I can't tell you how many times I've just like walked down the street and made a client, or sat in a cafe and then just got a client from the person sitting next to me. And all these divine things start to happen and just flow when you are really living your design. To get to that, you do have to pull out some weeds, right? And yeah, we're all different. And I think society's told us, especially in the way that we work or learn in school, this is the way to do it. And that can be limiting for a lot of us.
Could you give us an idea about pulling out the weeds? What would that look like? Obviously, there's, you know, life is work, right? To a certain degree, it's whether you're happy doing the work, but what does the work look like in human design?
Oh, let's think. Okay. So, I mean, the journey of me finding my voice, that was really hard. I felt comfortable. So I didn't feel comfortable speaking up anyway, but I felt a little bit more comfortable hiding behind facts and knowledge and structure and this is it. And, eat this and this. And having to change the way I communicate it was very vulnerable for me. It was I felt very vulnerable. I was scared of being judged, and you do it bit by bit. The first time I spoke up in front of people was a networking event in London, and it was 60 seconds. And before my 60 seconds, I think it was in front of like 30 people. I was running back and forth from the toilet. I was so stressed. I was like sweating for my 60 seconds. And I practice communicating, how my design shows me, and I did it. And then I kept going back for a few months. I think it was once a month. I kept going back and doing this. And I got a bit more comfortable, a bit more comfortable. And then when I came, to Bali and I did that first retreat talk, I actually asked a friend to hold the space with me who doesn't do human design, but just to hold the space with me because I was so nervous, again, to speak in front of people. And I just had to, bit by bit. So after I did that, then I did bigger audiences, bigger audiences, bigger audience, and different podcasts and things like that. So I think that, yeah, for me, the communication has been the biggest life changer for me. And ironically, it's how I ended up making money. I started my business through public speaking. That's how I was getting clients at the beginning.
Right, and you said that that was actually, like, ironically, that's part of your human design, but you took that and that was an indicator where you thought that was something that was an issue for you or a weakness, you turned it into your strength. So does that happen often, I guess, using human design?
Oh, for sure. But
Would that be like an indicator where you see, okay, this is something that I struggle with. Maybe this is part of my purpose.
yes, this is my human design base, but this is my personal observation, is that the biggest challenges that we go through in our life usually is where our biggest strength, or I want to say light, like we can reveal the most light in those most challenging areas of our life. So we can either avoid it and run away from it and like not, or we can do the uncomfortable, step into it, and the light that's revealed from doing that, it's crazy. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And with that, that brings us to our next segment, which is our silly subconscious question. And our question for you today, Fiona, is if your laugh had a catchphrase, what would it be?
I laugh.
Mm.
Oh, that's a hard question. Um,
It's whatever comes to mind is absolutely correct.
I think I need to laugh more. I don't think I laugh enough. So I think mine would be that you need to laugh more, loosen up, laugh more, don't take things too seriously. I think would be it. Yeah.
I like it.
Nice. And beyond what we've spoken of today, is there something you could leave the viewers with?
This is my catchphrase that I love to share with everyone. You are designed to be successful. Period. That's it. You're designed to be successful.
Wonderful. Well, we really appreciate you joining us today and sharing all of your knowledge and information. And with that, Jen, what do we always say?
Peace out.
Peace out.